Today's video was brought to you by Skillshare. Aputure's Light Dome SE costs less than half compared to their Light Dome 2. But is it only half as good? Because they seem to look and function an awful lot similar, so why does the SE cost less? Interestingly, the Light Dome SE doesn't instantly feel very unpremium compared to the Light Dome 2. You can tell Aputure didn't purposely give the SE an inferior build just because it's the cheaper version. In terms of build, it actually appears on par with the more expensive Dome 2. The SE does utilize a different material for the rods, however, but we'll get to that in a second because I would like to start with the biggest difference between these two, the way they are designed to be set up and torn down. The Light Dome 2 is known for its quick setup design. The rods are permanently connected to the mounting disc and you open the dome simply by pulling the rods outwards until they click in place. On the Dome SE, it's an unglamorously more traditional process. You've got to manually attach each rod into the center mounting disc while bending them into place. I have yet to meet anyone who considers this process to be a pleasant one, so this could very well be a primary deciding factor for anyone choosing between the Dome 2 and the SE. And having used both designs quite extensively myself, I can surely say that the Dome SE requires significantly more time and energy to set up and tear down compared to the Dome 2. However, that may or may not be a key determinant depending on how often you have to collapse and set up your dome. And right before we get into rod materials, since we're on the topic of light diffusers, if you're interested to learn the theory behind how softening a light source works, I would highly recommend checking out cinematographer Zach Mulligan's class on Skillshare called Cinematography Basics: Introduction to Lighting Techniques. He gets into the nitty-gritty of lighting theory, and in his lesson covering quality of light, he does a great job explaining the relationship between a light's relative size and its softness qualities. You'll also find many other interesting classes on Skillshare covering topics like photography, graphic design, music, and many more. Our sponsor, Skillshare, is an online community home to thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people just like ourselves. It's a platform that encourages exploring new skills, deepening existing passions, and for us to just get lost in creativity. It's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, and being curated specifically for learning means there are no ads on the platform so you can stay focused. They're constantly launching new premium classes, and the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership so you can explore your creativity. Now let's talk about what dome rods are made of. Although both these light domes appear to use similar materials for their fabric bits, the Light Dome 2 has rods made from metal, while the SE has fiberglass rods. That does translate into a pretty big advantage for the SE in the form of extremely significant weight reduction. A fully set up SE dome without the honeycomb grid weighs somewhere around 850 grams. The Light Dome 2 is almost a whole kilogram heavier, a little under 1.8 kilos, and that's without installing the filter holder. That means the SE is less than half the weight of the Dome 2. In fact, even against the Light Dome Mini 2, the SE is still lighter by about 300 grams. The SE is lighter than the small dome. So weight is probably the number one thing I love about the Dome SE. It does make a difference when you have it mounted onto a light and want to move the setup around. The active light emitting surface of the Dome SE is also ever so slightly smaller than the Dome 2, about 6.5 centimeters in diameter, which is not really enough to call it a pragmatic difference in my opinion. And then there's also a notable difference in depth. The 45cm deep SE is a good 15 centimeters shorter than the Dome 2, which again does make it more compact. It will stick out a little less from your light stand, which can be a good thing if you're shooting with limited space. And practically speaking, the slightly shallower SE doesn't really translate into a visible difference in terms of the light's output quality. Another difference that doesn't really affect the visible outcome is the number of sides each of these have. The Light Dome 2 is a 32-sided softbox, while the SE is only 16-sided. Both of them still produce perfectly circular catch lights though. But there is one big thing on the Dome 2 that you will not find on the SE, and that is the filter holder. The SE doesn't come with one, but it's also not compatible with the one that comes with the Light Dome 2. So if you plan to gel your lights, the Light Dome 2 would be the better choice here. You also get a very different style of carrying case with the SE. It's kind of like a tool pouch. I actually prefer its pocketed design from an organizational standpoint compared to the debatably better looking case for the Dome 2, but you just kind of chuck everything in for that one. But just like the Dome 2, the SE comes with two densities of diffusion materials, it gets the same inner diffusion treatment, and it comes with the very useful honeycomb grid attachment. On choosing between these two, if you need filters, then it's going to be the Dome 2. Otherwise, the biggest difference would be the Dome 2 being easier to set up and tear down compared to the SE. If you're getting one to bring on location for shoots, then I would recommend paying extra for the Dome 2 solely for the convenience factor, but ironically, it is also the heavier option. But if you're purchasing a Dome to be used inside a studio environment where you'll likely set it up once and have it stay up indefinitely, then I would certainly go straight for the SE. It costs less, and it's lighter. Now, if you're worried about how the light output looks, they're really not different. I'll leave purchase links to both these light domes down below, and if you enjoyed this comparison, maybe you might want to watch a couple more.